Gaming is an adventure, and the best games have the best journeys. No Man's Sky then is both a journey of ambition and immensity. Like all good games and good adventures though, it helps to have a sense of direction. Here then is a look at some of the many things that are possible within No Man's Sky. It's an insight into where this beautiful game can take you. I'd like to thank Hello Games for sponsoring this video. Please do check out the links in the video description for more details on this title. So, it's been 6 years since the game's release, yet it shows no sign of slowing down. As I've said many times before, it's an impressive release lineup, and one that, at times, makes it hard to fathom just how far the game has come. With over 20 major releases then, here's some of my favourite. The Frontiers update delivered the ability to not only discover and claim your very own settlement, but also granted the capability to expand it with new buildings and facilities. Additionally, as an overseer of the settlement, it's your responsibility to keep the residents happy and also ensure a successful economy. It turns out that managing settlements is perhaps one of my favourite additions to the game. For me, even more than constructing my own buildings, the Frontiers settlements gave me a sense of home. A true town set among the frontier lands, occasionally feeling like almost untamed wilderness. In fact, on some playthroughs of the game, the settlement has frequently been my main focus. More recently, these areas have also become the focus of hostile NPCs, which are prepared to attack it. Whilst they can't do any permanent, lasting damage to the place, it's certainly fun to jump into your starship and come to the settlement's defence. If spending your time in space is more your thing though, then you could do far worse than spending significant amounts of time with your freighter. This is a massive capital class ship that is player owned. Not only do you get the ability to walk around it, but also fully customise the interior as well as manage it. Further, you get control over your fleet and can send them out onto various missions. For me, this entire feature, it really is something that conveys the immensity of the game's scale. There's really nothing quite like the feeling of seeing a fleet of frigates and freighters exit from warp and enter space. What's more, the ability to go over to some of these and hire them as a part of your fleet, well, it just adds a lot of life to the game. Fleet missions then are something that I love to leave running in the background. As long as you've got enough ships, there's pretty much always some fleet expeditions that you can obtain or choose to send out. Here we got a great selection of expeditions. We're going to choose a combat patrol initially, 2,500 light years, and here we're going to select the frigates that we want to send out. Of course, the combat-orientated ones are going to be the best for this. Eventually, these ships will return, bringing with it credits as well as other resources. Very nice. But of course, that's not where it ends. Freighter interiors are now completely customizable. This means you can create your very own mobile base of operations that is capable of fulfilling many resource needs as well. What's more, you can also build on certain exterior areas of your freighter. Very flexible. Elsewhere in the game, combat remains a heavy focus. Although I will say, as I've said many times in the past, that I really am not a fan of the flight model for No Man's Sky. For my taste, it's a little bit too much on the arcadey side. The same can also be said on ship-to-ship combat. But that said, it really is a testament to the game and the developers as a whole that they've managed to find a way to make all of this engaging, even still. As I mentioned early on in the video, sometimes settlements can come under attack, and you can see that happening right here. It adds another layer of engagement to the game and really does give some additional purpose to the ship-to-ship combat, especially here with it happening near the surface of planets inside atmospheres. And that's without even mentioning squadrons, which add yet another layer to combat. Squadrons then are managed from your freighter. You can unlock 4 slots here, and then head on over to a regular space station and hire a pilot to fulfill your squadron needs. Squadrons can then be summoned at any time. They'll accompany you on your journeys and even get directly involved in combat, giving you much needed assistance. So yes, whilst I certainly find ship-to-ship combat a little bit too arcadey, It's very nice to see that it keeps getting additions and further refinement. Moving away from combat though, my favourite thing within No Man's Sky is, and always has been, exploration. Wherever you go in the galaxy, there's always something interesting to see and discover, and much of this content has indeed been improved over the years. For example, the 2021 update of Prisms saw an update to caves. The more recent Endurance update saw the improvement of Nebula, looking lovely here. And of course, there's been a multitude of fixes and improvements to planets as well. That includes the clouds as well as the grounds, not to mention both flora and fauna. At the end of the day, there's nothing quite like taking in one of these fantastic sights. But with exploration comes danger. And sometimes the environment just isn't your friend and, well, seems like it wants to kill you. And at other times, it's just full of mysteries and interesting objects. And let's not forget, we've got the ability to swim, as well as the ability to build bases under the water. And of course, not all of the discoveries take place on planetary surfaces. Space is equally as impressive. And sometimes you just never know what you're going to find. And strangely enough, that can often include companions as well. The Companions update arrived in February of 2021, and this allows you to, basically adopt pets or companions that you discover on your journey. These can be adopted by feeding them, and you then need to basically give them a little bit of care just to keep them happy. Naturally, these companions can come in all shapes and sizes, and although some may certainly look a little bit on the creepy side, ultimately they're all pretty friendly. Although that said, I never really personally got into the whole idea of riding around on these companions, and whilst you can certainly do that, I much prefer to ride around in vehicles. There's a decent selection of these, including the Nomad, as well as some larger vehicles. But if you're into something a bit more intimidating looking, then you really can't go wrong with the Minotaur. This one really is a favourite of mine and has come into all manner of uses, as it's, very resilient to most environments. Now, talking of environments, these are generally very well protected, at least on some planets, by Sentinels. A relatively recent update saw the Sentinels gain huge amounts of power, and indeed new types of Sentinels. Turns out that the Sentinels are controlled by a Sentinel boundary, a nest, a tower that can be located on many planets. These towers, though, are certainly very well protected, so you'll definitely need to tread very lightly and be well prepared. But if you manage to work your way through this successfully, you can defeat and disable the Sentinels, at least temporarily. There we go, shut down the Sentinel forces. And this will likely make your journey and trip around the planet, any work that you want to achieve here, that much easier without the ever-present threat of said Sentinels. Now, in the early days of No Man's Sky, I was kind of not too keen and too impressed with the idea of the Sentinels. They seemed to rather aimlessly just roam around the entire planetary surfaces, but nowadays they seem to have much more of a purpose and seem to be much more organised. At least that's the impression that these new Sentinel towers give off. It's that whole idea of a living, breathing galaxy, a galaxy filled with different forms of life, different factions, each of which have different ideas, different objectives, and different notions. The Outlaws update then really did expand upon this notion considerably. Here, entire systems are kind of under the sway of outlaw pirates, and the new space stations are true dens of villainy. I actually found these a great way of making money. Head on over to the black market, buy some illegal goods, and assuming you can successfully smuggle these into regular space stations, you can head to those marketplaces and sell those illegal goods for absolutely massive profits. Like I say, a very nice way of making a bit of money. So, turning our attention back to adventure. Here, you'll want an emergency broadcast receiver. You can get one of these from the scrap merchant, the scrap dealer, on a regular space station. And these have a very interesting, if not ominous, purpose. They allow you to track down derelict freighters. And as you can probably tell from the footage right here, they have a somewhat horror focus to them. Now, these are a bit of a challenge, as you can see right here. It says game not saved aboard derelict, so you can't save here. If you die, you will revert back to the previous time you saved, which could be a fair while back. But for me, these locations are a lot of fun. Once you've got the door open, there we go, any moment now, you'll find yourself in the middle of a space horror survival. Immediately, you'll notice that the ship's defences are turned against you. So these are something you certainly have to watch out for, but they are far from the only threat aboard the freighter. The more ominous threat, the more sinister threat, is by far the festering pulsates and the creatures that live herein. It doesn't look all that friendly, does it? That's an understatement. But that said, these locations are well worth coming to. They are a trove of resources and equipment. They're just a bit of a risk and a bit harrowing. Ultimately, as I said at the start of the video, No Man's Sky is a true journey. It's an adventure, a vast open world sandbox. Over my years with the game, I found there's always a different activity depending on my particular tastes at any one moment. Sometimes that's combat, sometimes that's building a base, other times it's going out on adventures. So that can be a multiplayer or solo. We're in the Nexus here, and this is a great hub. You can see other players roaming around. You're also free to pick up missions, or simply go out and explore the vast galaxy. And if you're lacking on inspiration a little, you can head to the featured buildings or the featured sites that are found in the Nexus. Teleport straight to one of these, and you will soon find some of the best player creations. Sometimes it might feel or sound like a bit of a cliche, but there really are limitless options here, a whole bunch of different activities, and certainly way more than can be included in any single video. But I do hope that if you're lacking in direction or not quite clear on what to do with No Man's Sky or what's available in No Man's Sky, this has given you an insight into a few of the various activities that are available. Once again, do check out that link in the video description. There's a whole bunch of information there. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.